Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show on Blog Talk Radio with me, Astrologer Shelley Overton. Each week we go over the planetary positions, discuss astrology, and take callers' questions. If you would like to call in and get a reading, you can call 347-994-3365. Call in early as the lines fill up. Welcome to the April 9th, 2019 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. Hey, welcome. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I want to say thank you for coming today because, you know, it's not easy getting where you need to go and getting everything the way it needs to be. Today is no exception. So I'm very honored that you would spend this time with me. Anyway, today we're going to go over some planetary positions for the month of April and take calls. And yes, I am still on an abbreviated show, and quite honestly, because of some issues I'm still having with Blog Talk, I am disinclined to give them any more money, so I will be looking for other places to potentially expand my podcast back to an hour. And so, like I said last show, it'll probably be within the next month. Of course, today, with the astrology the way it is, and it's quite obvious having the fact that I was a little delayed getting on because I was trying to use Skype, which is the only means I'm allowed to use, not the internal phone line associated with Blog Talk. It was giving me some issues. So you know why? Because my Mercury is at odds with Mercury in the sky right now. And so we've got a little bit of conflict, and hopefully it will not be a bad omen for the rest of the show. But anyway, Mercury is at 21 Pisces, and so he's getting ready to go into Aries, and that is going to be a very busy time. He goes in next week, so I'll jump ahead a little bit in what I'm telling you. So he's next week on the 16th, which is a Tuesday. Actually, yeah, I don't know why my brain was still on April 6th, but it's been so strange this month. I've been always like behind what date it is, which is kind of good because sometimes you're always feeling like you're rushed and hurried, and there's no, like you're never able to catch up, and it seems like it's a day later than it should be, but I've been going like 2 days behind what I think should be. So, yeah, reality is a little altered now with 3 planets in Pisces. Not surprising. So on the 16th of April at 11:01 p.m. Pacific, and then the 17th at 2:01 a.m. Eastern, we will have Mercury go into the new sign of Aries. So I'm looking forward to that, quite honestly. I mean, I have Mercury in Virgo, so I'm used to things moving forward, and yet I have Saturn retrograde in Pisces, so of course there is kind of a retrograde motion of the energy associated with career and life purpose, which I will tell you does affect me. Anyway, getting back to April, so we're already up to the 9th. So tomorrow we have Jupiter go retrograde. And quite honestly, Jupiter retrograde, he's at 24 degrees today. He is in the sign of Sagittarius. So it is about travel. It is about things not moving forward smoothly with travel. And I do want to send out the warning, Jupiter retrograde squaring Mercury in Pisces is not good for air travel. It is not good for staying away from accidents, honestly. So I'm anticipating there's going to be at least one accident associated with that killer energy. And water could be a problem, electricity, electrical, confusion. Mercury in Pisces could be not being thorough with something, taking your time, delayed takeoffs, things like that. And in the next couple days especially, because Mercury will take another 3 days to completely go into a square, and actually, let me see, 2 days, excuse me. Mercury squares Jupiter late night on the 11th and into Friday morning. So the next few days, bad for air travel. Foreigners, foreign energy, foreign culture, that is Sagittarian energy, and the emotional qualities of that. Again, having what's going on with the immigrants at the border right now is definitely an issue. It's going to escalate over the next couple of days where it's going to be contentious. Something's going to probably happen. We're going to find out more about what's been going on and whether or not we can do something about it. But Jupiter retrograde square Mercury moving into a new sign is probably going to be a contentious energy. And, they just yesterday, and that's also associated with this, yesterday, Kirsten, I honestly don't know her name, the head of immigration, and I believe it was, let me just look real quick and I can tell you, she gave her resignation, quote, in quotes, because I don't think she wanted to, but Kirsten Nielsen, that's who it was. So, and so now we have a new head of that department. I'll find out what department it was here. This is all I've been reading for like the last day about all this energy with the Department of Homeland Security, I believe is what it is, but that's strictly off the top of my head. And let's see, hang on one second. Homeland Security Secretary. So she has resigned. And, of course, Venus is moving into a square with Jupiter, so that's women, not surprising. And then Mercury is also moving into a square, so it doesn't look like it's going to be even good for anyone who goes into that position because it is going to be contentious. Mercury just went direct. He hasn't even gotten out of the shadow period yet, so he's still got another 8 degrees before he is out of his shadow. If you don't know what shadow periods are, the shadow period is the time from it is the degrees that a planet travels and then hits the last degree before it goes retrograde, and then all those same degrees where he retrogrades back to. So the point where he's all the way retrograded back through the point where he started his retrograde, those degrees are the shadow degrees. And so when you enter a shadow period, you are basically entering the time where you're going to see Mercury or any other planet that retrogrades go back over those degrees, and then he turns direct and goes back over them for a third time. So he goes direct one time, retrograde a second time, and direct over the same degrees a third time. So when a planet does that, we see a theme when the planet goes through the shadow period on the first time. Those are the things we'll be reviewing. Then the planet retrogrades over those degrees, and we second guess them. We have issue with them. We go over, we review, redo, recycle any of the re's, and then we go forward again, and then we culminate the energy and decide what it needs to be. So we are at the end degrees of the shadow period, and so now, of course, Trump has decided that Homeland Security needs a new head. Mercury is going to be at the end degrees when that person starts his time there, and I think it's Stephen Miller is his name. So he's beginning under a Mercury direct at the end of the shadow period, which tells me that he's not going to have a lot of things go the way he thinks it will, especially with a square to the ruling planet of that particular energy, which is Homeland Security. And of course, they put immigrants and the borders under that. So we're having issues with it, and it's going to escalate over the next few days as if it hasn't already with this particular shift, and that was already bad to begin with, as you well know. So I don't want to get into the politics of it. Real estate, we're going to see some issues with real estate. I think it's been dropping already. I told you recently that my farmhouse that I live in, I rent, has been sold recently. And I was looking it up online, and on Zillow.com, they actually, and this is not sponsored, they tell you how much a property is worth, and they'll give you an insight over how much it was over the last few weeks or months. And this one was down, I want to say in 2 weeks it went down like $13,000 in value or something like that. So it would be interesting to do some research on Zillow all over the country and see what the house values are, but definitely having Mercury square Jupiter, house values are definitely going to start to take a hit. And then also I've noticed there were a few new IPOs this week. One was Lyft and one was Pinterest, which I think went today maybe. Not great days for IPOs, people. Yeah, Facebook, I think I mentioned this also recently. Facebook went public with Mars just in Gemini. Actually, right now might be a better time for, it wasn't Mars, it was Venus. Venus went into, I believe, I'd have to look it up. I apologize. It's either Venus or Mars. Just retrograded a couple days after the IPO for Facebook, and then it was answering, it was in Gemini, so it answered to Mercury. And every time Mercury goes retrograde, of course, something happens with Facebook. Now, having said that, we also have Mars and Moon in Gemini right now, so I think Facebook is probably doing a little bit better this week with that energy. But in general, because of that retrograde in the IPO, whenever Mercury retrogrades, and I'd have to look it up, like I said. You see these fluctuations in the public opinion, in information that comes out about the company, things like that. So we can see all that through the IPO. And I do charts for IPOs. When I'm researching stocks, do when it was released and do it for 9:30 because that's when the market opens in Eastern time zone. And that will let you know exactly what's going on with a particular stock or a company. So let's get back to what else is going on. So that's this week. 10th, 11th, and 12th, we're going to have some pretty intense energy with this Mercury squaring Jupiter. It is transitions because Mercury is at the end degrees of Pisces. It is transitions associated with accidents. Mercury is the planet I go to for unexpected things, and definitely accidents fall in that category. So also be careful around water, be careful around travel, and transportation modalities, especially because we have Mercury ruling the Mars and Gemini energy today and Moon in Gemini as well today. They are conjunct Mars and Moon. So Moon conjunct Mars means emotionalism and sentimentality around our thoughts of the home. Our thoughts of mother, how we think about nurturing. We are in our ideas about nurturing, not necessarily doing it, but Mars and Gemini is kind of an unusual combination because, unusual in a sense that Mars is fire and action and Gemini is thoughts and consideration. And instead of actually being able to take action on things, a lot of times we get caught up in our ideas or we go round and round in our brains and our thoughts. And also Moon joined Mars today is a water energy. So you have a real big mix of what kind of modality we're trying to express through. Are we expressing emotion? Are we expressing physicality and taking physical action? Are we expressing our ideas, our thoughts, and through words? And honestly, it's probably a combination of all of them because you also have that energy moving into square. Venus and Moon will be squaring each other coming up in the next 24 hours. So you're going to have that as well. Let me see if I can find that. Moon square Venus will be 9:51 p.m. and this evening. That's Pacific, and then 12:51 a.m. tomorrow morning for Eastern. Venus and the Moon square. So that is women. That is conflict around different types of feminine interactions. So that could be mother-daughter, it could be sister and another lady or a boss. It could be someone acting aggressive or having ideas and going against your view of how things should be. Yeah, so it could be like stepmothers and daughters, things like that. Anyway, so we've got that energy coming in soon. It's a little bit of a few days of conflict coming up. Then we've got on Sunday, which is Palm Sunday, it's a positive day. We've got Sun in Aries trining Jupiter in Sagittarius. That is a very physical energy. It's about going out, doing something physical, sporty, and playful, and really kind of just being in your own personal energy. In Aries, the Sun is very much about itself, and Jupiter in Sagittarius is very much about itself. So it is like doing what I want to do, not necessarily what you want to do. So it isn't terribly cooperative, but it is very active and playful. You have Venus sextile Pluto at 7:52 p.m. on Sunday, so that is actually a cooperative energy as well, and it's around transforming who we are as women or what we are about in a feminine sense and creating a physical structure that supports it. It means that authority is in alignment with the story of women in that sense, because they are cooperating between ideas and vision and the tangibility. So ideas and vision is Pisces, it is desire, which is Venus, and tangible psychology, the psychology of a situation as it's expressed in the physical world, is Pluto. On Tuesday, the 16th and 17th, Mercury finally gets out of the shadow period and enters Aries, like I said. When he does that, his first connection, it looks like, is going to be, well, it's not going to say it here, but he will be conjunct Chiron and he will be conjunct Vesta right after he goes into Aries. So Tuesday and Wednesday of next week are going to be probably another emotional, intense day. It could be another day of aggression and violence and conflict, and there are going to be unexpected things, and I am probably going to be on edge here with school situations, and that would be something that I would watch out for also next week. And then Saturday the 20th, well, I should back up. The full moon is Friday the 19th, and that's in Scorpio. It's at 29 degrees. Actually, I take it back. The moon enters Scorpio at 8:41 a.m. It's full at 29 degrees and 7 minutes of Libra, which is the very bitter end of Libra. And that means that it is going to be about wrapping up stories around partnering and relationships, and then immediately goes into Scorpio, so it's asking you to look into new commitments. And then Saturday is Passover, and the Sun enters Taurus. I'm just reading what's here in my calendar. I am no longer Catholic or practice that, but just for those of you who are, that's what it is. And then Sun enters Taurus at 4:55 a.m. on Saturday the 20th. Venus enters Aries at 2:11 p.m. So it is going to be probably another day of intense energy, just because it's two major entities in the sky, shifting signs, and they are in initiating energy, which is Venus into Aries, and settling in physical body structure of Taurus. So it is about food, it's about taking action, and it could even be really good for starting a diet. The psychology of Moon trine Neptune in Pisces is good, and then also Moon sextiles Saturn in Capricorn, and also Pluto in Capricorn on Saturday the 20th. So if you're thinking of starting a diet, really good time for that. And then we have, let's see, Sunday is Easter, the 21st. Then I'm turning the page here, and I have orange as my alert color in this planner, and it's all over the next spread, which is the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th. Well, the 25th is fairly mild compared to the rest of it. So 22 through 24 and 26, 27 are orange bleeding all over this. So the 22nd is Earth Day. Sun is conjunct Uranus, which means, again, it's ego and independence. So it is probably going to be a clash because Moon also squares, Moon in Sagittarius that day squares Neptune in Pisces. So there is going to be a clash, but the difference here is that Sun is in Taurus and Uranus is in Taurus, which is humanitarianism and society, the collective consciousness. And so it is a strong energy around ego and getting the voice heard. So anyone who is feeling like you're maligned or you're not really being heard, and I can tell you Uranus and Taurus, it's a feminine sign, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's women standing up saying, you know what, you need to pay attention to us. And since it is Earth Day, I wouldn't even be surprised if women are a focus of activities around the world in this Earth Day, or feminine energy and motherly energy. Also, the 23rd, we have Moon entering Capricorn, so he squares Chiron in Aries that same day. He is joining Jupiter at the end degrees early in the morning of Sagittarius, so it's about moving houses or feeling like you need to move. Venus joins Chiron the same day, so there is a wounding around energy that is initiating masculine energy. Venus is feminine, but she is expressing through the male side of things. And then the moon, also a feminine planet or entity, and this guy's considered a light in Sagittarius, a male energy joining up with Jupiter, so it's about travel and home and taking action to move. And then Venus with Chiron is wounded around the situation. Moon enters Capricorn. So Moon entering Capricorn then brings it down to Earth and into the tangible energy. And the very next day, Pluto retrogrades in that very same sign. And so the 24th, Wednesday, Pluto is retrograde at 2:48 p.m. Eastern and 11:48 a.m. Pacific. And then there is a Saturn retrograde coming the week after, and so Pluto retrogrades the 24th, Saturn retrogrades the 29th. They are almost in tandem with their retrogrades, so absolutely you can look forward to Earth shifts, physical shifts. I know I always get achy joints and bones and back when this happens. You can get headaches. You can also expect stronger earthquakes and volcanoes coming at that time, big earth shifts with that retrograde because they are so close together. When they retrograde, it means they are also pulling away from the Piscean energy in ideology. So there's going to be an awakening of, well, Neptune goes retrograde. I don't even think I said that. Neptune's coming up in retrograde too this year. When does he retrograde? Oh, we've got a little bit of time before he does. He doesn't retrograde till June, so that's good. He is still marching forward right now along with Venus and Mercury, but Pluto and Saturn pull back, which means that they are still mulling over how they interact with women and the feminine energy. I'm going to ask right now, anybody listening to the show, if you want a reading. I don't have any hands up for a reading. If you'd like a reading, I'll give you one. Otherwise, I'll continue on to the end of the podcast and just tell you a little bit more about what's going on. So I don't see any hands, and that's fine. I'm going to continue on here and kind of go back over my pages and find where I was at, because I just turned the page. So, yeah, we've got a Mars square Neptune on Saturday the 27th. So Mars in Gemini, again, wanting to talk about things, wanting to say things. The interesting thing about this is Mars, or actually Gemini, it's ruled by Mercury. Of course, Mercury gets to Aries, and so they are in mutual receptivity, which means that Mercury, when he goes into Aries, he's in the sign of Mars, the sign ruled by Mars, and Mars is in Gemini, which is the sign ruled by Mercury. So they are in each other's sign, which is mutual receptivity, and that means that they act in similar energy. Basically, you know, the archetype of Gemini, Mars is in both signs, and Mercury, Aries. They both are the same. So it's going to be a really strong cooperation energy between Aries and Gemini, or Mars and Mercury. And so it's about actually walking your talk. At the same time, you have a square to Neptune, and what did I say? That was the 27th of April. And so it's going to be that we will be aggressively asserting our point of view, which may or may not be true to the collective, to other people. But you are very adamant, we are very adamant about moving forward with what we see as our perspective, and it is running headlong into the collective vision, which is now Neptune energy is going to be about what we all want, what we are intuiting as a collective. And so having Neptune square Mars is going to be probably also expressing the energy of the oceans, the energy of water, and again, Mars Gemini is potential, and also Mercury in Aries at that time, potential for accidents still, and again, and that comes up periodically because Mercury is really, like I said, my ruler of accidents. So whenever he is in conflict with different energies, he can influence those situations that way. And having planets in either of the Gemini-ruled signs, Mercury-ruled signs, which is Gemini and Virgo, can express this energy of not being completely cognizant of things you need to be aware of at the moment. And so it can bring about accidents because we're acting quickly and not really registering deeper or more expansive understanding and information about what's going on. So we consequently mess up. And so definitely Mars in Gemini is also an energy of travel and transportation and vehicles, neighbors, and siblings, and small animals. So that's like a real quick rundown of what Gemini rules. And so those are themes that we're going to be seeing until Mars gets into Cancer. And I will tell you when Mars is in Cancer, that is the 17th of May. I'm going to take one call because someone would like a reading, and then we'll wrap up. Hi, 785. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Good. Who am I talking to?
My name is Hope.
Oh, okay. Hi, Hope. I already asked you how you were. So give me a quick second here to get a little computer information from you. So what's your birthday?
Okay. 8/22/66.
Okay. And what time and place?
I don't know for sure. My mom always told me it was early morning. So in New York.
Okay. All right. I'm going to just put you down for about 3:30 in the morning,
Okay.
because that's the impression I got between 3:30 and 4:30. So I'll just put down, or actually between 3 and 4. When you say early morning, that's what I think of. So I will put that down, and we will see what we see. What can I do for you as far as looking in your chart?
Looking for a job. I'm in need of a job. I've had a couple of interviews in the last couple of weeks. I haven't had any phone calls.
Okay, well, that's not surprising because, like I said, Mercury is at the last degrees of the shadow period of the retrograde, which means not only is he wrapping up the old story, but he's not quite into a new story, which is Aries energy, and that happens the 16th. So I think that things are percolating behind the scenes, and you've got some really strong energy in your workplace. Saturn and Pluto are there. With the early morning time, you've got a late Cancer rising, maybe early Leo. Are you more kind of a quiet person, or are you more outgoing? Not that you can't be both, but the quiet person would be a Cancer rising. The more outgoing would be a Leo.
More outgoing.
Okay, so you do have Leo in the first, so we'll just assume that maybe you're born a little bit later than 3:30, and so I'm just trying to adjust that, looking at your chart to see what else is going on as far as getting something coming in. Okay, right now with Mars in Gemini in your house of money from career, that is going to be about talking with people, and because Mars is in Gemini in your money from career, he answers to Mercury, so Mercury is almost exactly on your Saturn, which is your life, your career and life purpose. And so I would say the 16th of April is going to be probably the time you need to really be aiming for, with more likely about the 20th of April, because you're going to also get a shift and change of the sun into Taurus. It will connect with Uranus, which is the unexpected, but it's also personal power. And then you have Mercury going to Aries, which is in your midheaven, and it's also career. So people will come up and start talking to you about those things. And the reason I say closer to the 20th is because you want to bypass the Vesta and the Chiron energy before you really accept anything. And that's going to happen the 16th, 17th, 18th, because those asteroids are actually more troublesome, so to speak, to be nice. And you really don't want to accept something under the conjunction to Vesta or Chiron, because one is the wounded healer, and the other one, it can be like a harder, shrewish type woman, and you don't want either one of those in your workplace. So definitely Mercury going into Aries is going to bring you more opportunities, and it will also open up a new venue for you. And I think also with the sextile to Mars, it's going to be really positive for you. So I'm saying just have the 20th of April in mind. And I would say don't worry so much about what's going on in between, because Venus and Mercury in Pisces is historically just hang out, not do as much, wait around, nothing seems to get done. And they are squaring the Mars energy, so it's like they're at odds right now. So I would really just say wait until the 20th if you can. And I think that things are going to percolate better at that time for you. Okay? Hello? Did I lose you? Okay. Well, I guess that's the end of the podcast. So anyway, thank you very much, Hope, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for stopping by AstroEnergy this week. If you would like to get a hold of Shelley Overton, you can get her at astrologerangel.com, on Facebook at AstroEnergy or Astrologer Angel. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, with additional music by Ironwood Rain. Check them out on the net at ironwoodrain.com.
To subscribe, please click the picture of Shelley on the right or the red button below.